believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. And be ready against the third day, for the third day Yahweh will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever touches the mount shall be surely put to death. There shall not a hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned, or shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning, that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding.
I would like to remind everyone at this time to please quiet all cell phones and electronic devices so our class is not disturbed. Quiet.
Don't let your problems get you down. Don't let the situation make you frown. Don't let the hard times get the best of you. Hold your head up and walk on through. I know it's hard to see your way. The devil's throwing darkness all in your way. Don't blow your top. Stay in a fight. Yahshua will be there. He's a way to keep the light.
And everything's gonna be alright.
He told me,
Be alright.
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 Everything's
gonna be
He
alright.
told me,
Be alright.
sound good now.
Alright.
Don't let your problems get you down. Don't let the situation make you frown. Don't let the hard times get the best of you. Hold your head up and walk on
Walk
through.
on through.
I know it's hard. See your way. The devil's throwing darkness all in your way. Don't blow your top. Stay in the fight.
Just fine.
Yahshua will
He'll
be there.
be
He's a way
there.
to keep the light.
Everything's gonna be
He
alright.
told me,
Be alright.
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 Everything's
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me,
Be alright.
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 The burdens you face, all your fears he will erase, all the troubles you go through. He told me to tell you it's gonna be alright.
Gonna be alright.
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 Alright, 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 alright.
And everything will
Be alright.
He told me
Be alright. Alright.
everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me
Be alright.
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 Believe when I say
Yeah, yeah.
trouble don't last always.
Yeah, yeah.
Join in with me,
Ooh.
and soon you will see it's gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright.
Gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
Be alright.
It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be
Gonna be
alright.
alright.
It's gonna be
Gonna
alright.
be alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright, alright. And everything will
Be alright.
He told me
Be alright. Alright.
all in all,
Everything's
I
gonna
am
be alright.
Asher.
Be alright.
I
Alright.
spiritually
Everything's
gonna
gonna be
He
alright.
told me
Be alright. Alright. If
eternally.
you just listen to what he says,
I everything.
everything's gonna be
He
alright.
told me
Be alright.
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 Sing it, T.
Everything's gonna be
He
alright.
told me
Be alright. Alright.
everything.
Everything's gonna be
He
alright.
told me
Be alright. Alright. If
everything.
you just listen to what Yahshua says, ooh, alright,
Everything.
everything's gonna be
He
alright.
told me
Be alright. Alright,
all in all,
everything's
I
gonna be alright.
Asher.
Be
I
alright. Alright,
everything.
everything's gonna be
He
alright.
told me
Be alright.
hallelujah. Everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me
Be alright. Oh, right.
We need some wisdom. We need the truth. We need some beauty. We need the proof. And in the meantime, I know that he's inside. Now I know Yahshua, and I'm satisfied. Now listen, went to the ocean, stood in the surf. I heard the water, I felt the earth. I heard the angels, y'all couldn't be denied. Now I know Yahshua, and I'm satisfied. Ooh, willing to believe he's the only righteous man. I try to do the best I can. He is the teacher. The truth is in the Son. We can leave it all behind this carnalness.
We got some wisdom.
We got Yahshua's wisdom. Yahshua is the
We
truth.
got some beauty.
He's got plenty of beauty, and he gives all kinds of proof. Oh, in the meantime, means right now. Oh, the Holy Spirit tabernacles inside.
Now I know Yahshua.
Now I know Yahshua,
And I'm
satisfied. All right, let's sing. Yahweh is the reason
Oh, he's the
that
reason
we were born.
that I was born.
Yahshua's the answer
Oh, he's the answer.
we all been looking for.
Yeah, I was looking.
All the others, they stood around and lied.
Oh, they lied,
Yes,
they
they
lied.
But now we know Yahshua.
Oh, I know Yahshua.
Satisfied.
Oh, yeah, and I'm so
Sing the
satisfied.
word.
We got some
We got Yahshua's wisdom.
We got the
Yahshua is the truth.
We got some
Yahshua's got plenty of
We
beauty,
got the
and he gives all kinds of proof now.
And in the
Oh, in the meantime means right now.
inside.
That means right now the Holy Spirit is inside.
Now I know
Now we know Yahshua. That makes us satisfied. Thank you, Yahshua. You made us satisfied.
yeah.
Thank you, choir. Our first speaker for this evening will be Dr. Tina Pettigrew.
Good evening, class. I'm happy to be here. I enjoyed the words of the previous speaker on Sunday. They were talking about this tabernacle pattern and how it goes along with the human body and the migratory pattern, and how that when we come in to learn something about our Creator, He starts off at the most holy place. He is pure spirit. Yahweh is spirit. And He takes on shape and form, and then came down in the earth plane. And let's get Exodus 24, 9 and 10, and John 4 and 24.
Exodus 24, 9 and 10. Then went up Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel.
So we
And-
have these charts. I need to slow down, probably, because I just jumped in, didn't I? The charts around the room are a product of a divine vision and revelation given to our founder, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley. And we use these charts as tools to learn something about our Creator. And I'm beginning at Moses because that's what Yahshua did. when he was walking down the road to Emmaus with his disciples. He told them he began at Moses because they didn't understand what he was doing. He came in to fulfill. So, but he is the archetype, original pattern of the universe, you see. And in beginning with Moses, that means, or the law, the first 5 books of the Bible and the prophets. And it's all revealing Yahshua the Messiah and showing proof of his existence and that he is ruler and king of all. Can I get Psalms, maybe not Psalms, Proverbs 8:22, I think. Actually, it's right there. Let me put that on silent.
Yahweh possessed me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning or ever the earth was. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth. When he established the clouds above. When he strengthened the fountains of the deep. When he gave to the sea his decree that the water should not pass his commandment. When he appointed the foundations of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was by him, as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in the habitable part of his earth, and my delights were with the sons of men.
Is that 30?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
31.
So, Yahweh being the archetype, original pattern of the universe, we're reading here about Moses going up into the mountain with Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they're witnessing, or they're seeing, Yahweh Elohim. Okay? And so go ahead and read.
Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the Elohim of Israel.
So they saw the Elohim of Israel. And this is a part of the Bible that is kind of, people would say, contradictory, because if you don't have the proper names in there, it's going to read, they saw God. Okay? So, but we read over in John that no man.
No man has seen God at any time.
Mm-hmm. So it's a, go ahead. Yeah. John 1:18 talks about no man has seen God at any time. And in this school, we come to find out that Yahweh is a unity and he has one name, you see. And the difference in how he operates is we can take the natural things to understand the spiritual things, Romans 1:19 and 20, by looking at how water exists in 3 different states: gaseous state, a liquid state, and a solid state, but it's all one bondable matter. It's all one H2O, one water, okay? One substance. And so Yahweh is like the gaseous state, where you can't see it, touch it, but it's all in all parts of the room. Liquid state is like Elohim, and the solid state is like Yahshua the Messiah. We come to find that Yahweh is a unity and not a trinity, you see. So then went up, so when we read in John 1:18, it said no man has seen God at any time. And then it says 74 people saw God. Now we have a controversy and we have people losing faith because the Bible is contradicting itself. But with the proper names in here, no man has seen Yahweh at any time. It's just like saying no man has seen the gaseous state of water at any time. You see what I'm saying? So, but you could see water in a glass. So that's like Yahweh Elohim. So 74 people went up and saw him, you see. That's just something natural to understand, something spiritual. He is water, but he's not water. You know, I mean, in this state, he appeared as the archetype or original pattern of the universe, which everything operates and is made by and we abide within. So anyway, then went up Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. Read.
And they saw the Elohim of Israel.
So they saw the Elohim of Israel. Okay.
And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of a sapphire stone,
Mm-hmm.
and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness.
Mm-hmm.
And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand.
Okay.
Also they saw Elohim and did eat and drink.
So they saw Elohim and did eat and drink. Okay. And go ahead and go to Exodus 25.
Exodus 25 and 8.
Yeah.
And let them make me a sanctuary.
So after Yahweh goes up here, or Moses, Yahweh calls Moses up here and shows him himself. 74 of them can only come this far, but he instructed Moses to come up with his minister Joshua to go up further, you see. So he then revealed himself to Moses, you see, or transfigured, okay, and into Elohim. And so then there he saw the original pattern, which is Elohim himself, or Yahweh coming into shape and form. You see, go ahead and read.
And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them.
So Yahweh Elohim is telling Moses to let them, the children of Israel, make me a sanctuary so that Yahweh Elohim can dwell among them. Read.
According to all that I show thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle.
See, and it was said that he spent 33 days showing him how to construct the tabernacle pattern, you see. And so he says, see that thou make it according to the way that I showed you there in the mount. See, read.
According to all that I show thee after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it.
And according to all the instruments thereof, even so this is how, here's a bigger depiction of it, even so shall ye make it. So this tabernacle that Yahweh instructed them to build in the wilderness of Sinai consists of a most holy place, which correlates to Yahweh in his most holy state, incomprehensible, inscrutable. You see, the holy place correlates to Elohim, you see, and then the most holy, or the court roundabout, correlates to Yahshua, the Messiah. So he came down to our level, but he comes down and we have to come up. You see, he came down so that we can come up. So this is why we have here in the court roundabout a sacrifice that the children of Israel had to make, you know, back there in the wilderness of Sinai, that consisted of a sacrifice of blood with 4 points of blood around it, right? The high priest had to wash the sacrifice that they brought in the brazen laver, and all these vessels down here in the outer court were brazen vessels, or they were just of way lesser value. They're made of brass, you see. And then, but before this high priest could go into the holy place, he would have to be anointed with oil before he went through the door into the holy place. This high priest is like Yahshua the Messiah, you see. So he had to be anointed before he went into the holy place, where he had to light the candle at a certain time of the day, because there could be no darkness in here, you see. And there was an altar of incense, which also had 4 points of blood on it, that when the high priest took that blood up, he had to take it, he had to put it on these 4 points. And on the Day of Atonement, he had to put the blood on these 4 horns as well. And he took the blood and he would sprinkle it. So the blood is not just all down here in the court roundabout, but the blood is all throughout. So that's why we say to get off the blood, water, and spirit, that is Yahshua the Messiah himself. You can't get off the blood, the water, and the spirit. Anyway, so, and then he would go in through the most holy place, sprinkle the blood. But before he went there, he would go in the back of this that had a compartment that housed his garments of beauty and glory, which was talked about in the previous classes, how that those 12 stones were on his breastplate, and that typified those 12 tribes back here being brought up and how, okay, into the most holy place, you see, and how that Shekinah would flash up there in the most holy place. Okay, so we correlated, we just gave you just a quick rundown of that, and how that these correlate to these vessels in this, being made in the man. You and me are made in the image of Elohim by the pattern that was shown to Moses back here that they had to build. And this is what we're trying to impart to you, that everything goes according to this pattern, because it virtually is Yahweh Elohim. You see, he is the tabernacle pattern. Nothing can get outside of him. And that's really what I was looking for when I was called for Proverbs. In him we live, move, and have our being. I called the wrong scripture. Acts 17. And I know it's somewhere around here. There it is. I was looking at the wrong one. Acts 17 and 28. Let me grab that. Because we can't get outside him to look back on him. You know, he's not too big and he's not too little. You know what I'm saying? So for him to come down on his level, that was a death that took place. So people say, you know, you're putting yourself on his level, but he actually brought himself down to our level, and that's where the death took place. Even just from coming, this is a great, this state can only be seen in divine visions and revelations, but this cannot be seen at all. So just from him coming into shape and form was a great death, you see, and then to further come down and die, come into sinful flesh, when you, in the likeness of sinful flesh, I'm sorry, and to die, that death is even further, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it was a great death that took place, you see, for the saving of the souls. And when we talk about the purpose of Yahweh, that's what his purpose is. It's to save the soul, you see. So could you read Acts 17:28?
For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring.
So we're in him, we live and move and have our being. And I guess you could correlate that to something natural. Before you were born, you were in your parents, you weren't in shape and form, you know what I'm saying? The father had the sperm, and mom had the ovum, and when they came together, it's like that Holy Spirit, you see, coming together and forming that life. And subsequently, it takes exactly the same amount of time for a child to be formed, and that's Yahweh's doing. That's Yahweh who forms the man in there, you see. Just like Yahweh formed this tabernacle back here, he forms you as well in the exact same manner. Just like you have this cloud up here that correlates to the most holy place where you have your brain, you see. That's the first thing that forms the brain and the spine, which is 33 vertebrae, just like it was 33 days that he showed him how to create this tabernacle pattern. You see, you have this, the brain and the spine that's formed first, you see, and then the heart, you see, so you can see Yahweh coming in, you see, and then you see his heart. You see, those are the things that are formed first, and then that creates that heartbeat or that life. And then after that, the different organs are formed around it, and those organs correspond directly to the 9 divine attributes of Yahweh. You see, the nervous system that heads it all up, your reproductive, your endocrine system, your respiratory, circulatory, excretory, digestive, muscular, and skeletal system, you see. And the digestive system is correlative to the foundational system, which the previous speaker was talking about before in another class, which is foundational. And that correlates, I hope I'm not doing too many correlations. I mean, you know what I'm saying, I hope I'm not losing anybody, to this migratory pattern, you see. And this is where Yahshua started preaching the gospel about himself, because that's why this is foundational. The migratory pattern is foundational, just like, because it correlates to the attribute of foundation. This is a foundational thing. This is why we start here. And he was talking about how that it began with a promise with Abraham. But you see in this chart, it's divided into 3 different parts. But if you look at this portion under the Abraham King Melchizedek, you see, in the most holy place, you see, he said in the previous class that he didn't start down here where you would think digestive start because it's in your stomach. It doesn't start here, but the digestion starts in the most holy place, so that when that food goes in, chicken or a collard wrap, you see what I'm saying, whether it be animal or plant, pointing to the angelic or the physical creation, you see, there's that sacrifice that has to go in that most holy place and be broken down, just like the promise. You see, Yahweh already made a promise to Abraham that his seed was going to go down in bondage, that he'd bring him out with great substance, in Genesis 15, chapter 22, I think. And so the promise was already made. So he said that just like he started off in Canaan land, he started off up here, you see, but he told him that his seed, his kids, all his generations were going to end up in a dark place under bitter bondage. Abraham was a king. He was a rich man up here. He was wealthy, you see, but he was telling them they were going to go down and be slaves. But they would be there for 400 years, according to the pattern, but that they would come out with great substance, just like Yahweh here is alone and by himself, but at the end of all this, he's multiplied and glorified. This is a foundational, the migratory pattern is a foundation, you see, to learning anything about him, along with the other attributes that we'll go into later in time, the power and strength, which correlate to the muscular and the skeletal system. You see, these are the things that you can stand on here, but it's all governed by the nervous system, which the nervous system obviously correlates to Yahweh himself because he's in control of it all. Can you go ahead and read that, please? Go ahead and read. I think I had John 4:24 that I didn't get to. Yahweh is spirit, and they that worship Yahweh must worship him in spirit and in truth. But you cannot take him in his spiritual realm. Just like the promise was made here, and you can't eat food fully in the migration, it has to be broken down. And that's what he did. He broke himself down. He slowed himself down, because the molecules, when they slow down like water, in the gaseous state, they're real fast. That's like Yahweh on fire. He's quick, and and his word is quicker than any two-edged sword, see? But he slows it down, and now you can get some liquid and take that in and actually get something to quench your thirst. We don't normally have a problem with trying to figure out how to get water, but if you were left naked and afraid on a desert island, you know, like that show, you know, you would be trying to scoop up some water from a rock, you know what I'm saying? And they only have it for a certain amount of time, 21 days. But, you know, if you were out there, if we had to survive on our own today, you know, without the commercial stuff, we might not know how to do it. So we've been blessed. But anyway, so then after those molecules are slowed down even more, you see they form ice and you can hold on to it. That's like Yahshua the Messiah coming in the flesh and dying, you see. Okay, go ahead and read, please.
John 4:24. Yahweh is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth.
So we have to worship him in spirit and in truth. So we got to get down to the nitty-gritty of the thing. So we know that a promise was made with Abraham, but that he said his seed was going to have to go into bondage, just like you and me, in a way, going down in this bondage, being lied to about this Lord God and Jesus Christ. Now people even know, they even joke about it. There's a joke that I saw, something about, what's the name of your God? God. Well, that doesn't make, even the untrained mind knows that that's ridiculous, because there's so many gods. A God has to have a name. And Ephesians 4, I think, and just start at 1 and read on down.
Ephesians 4:1. Therefore the prisoner of Yahweh, I therefore the prisoner of Yahweh beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit.
See, we have to, wait a minute, we have to endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit. So does it say to endeavor to keep the Trinity of the Spirit? No, because in Deuteronomy, he says, Yahweh our Elohim is a unity. So we won't find Trinity. So we've been lied to about the Trinity. We've been lied to about the name. We've been lied to about the letter J. We've been lied to about a lot of things. But yet he says in John 4:24 that he has to be worshiped in spirit and in truth. And he also says in Timothy, that Timothy 3:16, study to show thyself approved, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. The word of truth, you see. And Yahweh Elohim is the word of truth. So, okay, so I'm like now kind of off track a little bit. Go back, because I forgot what I was talking about.
Galatians 4:1. I therefore the prisoner of Yahweh beseech you, with Ephesians 4:1.
Okay.
I therefore the prisoner of Yahweh beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering.
Lowliness, meekness, and long suffering. Patience is long suffering. We have to suffer for a long time. But it's no more suffering than what he had to suffer, just coming out of the state that he came in to get yourself. Go ahead.
Forbearing one another in love.
Forbearing one another in love.
Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace.
See, keeping the unity of spirit in the bond of peace, you see.
There is one body.
Now there's only one body, but yet we have millions of different sects that out there that say they're, okay, different faiths and different this, but there's only one body. Read.
And one Spirit.
There's only one Spirit.
Even as ye are called in one hope of your calling.
Mm-hmm.
One Yahweh.
There's only one Yahweh.
One faith.
So if you were reading it out of the other one, it'd say there's only one Lord, but that's not his name. There's only one Jehovah. That's not his name. There's only one Yahweh. Read.
One faith.
One faith.
One baptism.
So there's only one faith. There's not a whole bunch of different faiths. There's only one. Read. There's only one baptism or one immersion. That's in the Holy Spirit, because there's only one. Read, please.
One Yahweh and Father of all.
So he's the Father of all you black folks, all you white folks, all you Chinese folks, all you Indian folks, all of you. So we are all brothers. You see what I'm saying? He's the Father of all.
Who is above all.
But he's above you. We just said that in his pure spirit state, like with that gaseous state of water, he's incomprehensible, inscrutable. You cannot take him in like that. He has to be broken down. And that's what he did for us. He broke himself down. Read.
And through all.
He's through you. So water running through you, blood, you see his spirit. Read.
And in you all.
And he's in you all. Yahweh is in you all. Read. Oh, I think that's it, huh? Well, go ahead and read it a little bit more. I think there's more.
But unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of the Messiah.
So you're given grace, and it's a gift from the Messiah. Just to be able to know something in spirit and in truth is a gift, and it's grace. To have mercy. He's the king of this kingdom, and he could just off you. You know what I'm saying? Like, behead him. You know, but he had mercy and it's grace. You see, read.
Wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men.
So he led captivity captive. So we talked about back here with Abraham, how his seed was going to be a stranger in a strange land. You know, I think we got to get that where we were getting Genesis. I'll be down. 22? I think I called Genesis 22 or 15 and the promise that was given from Yahweh to Abraham that his seed would be in bondage and they would have to serve them 400 years and be a stranger in a strange land. And how that migratory pattern that the previous speaker was talking about, how that migration started in a rich, high place, and just like where Yahweh started. It has to go according to his pattern, you see. How he started off in Canaan's land, his seed had to go down into bondage. But in order for them to come out, they had to put the 4 points of blood on the door. You see, just like in our tabernacle, there was 4 points of blood. There had to be that sacrifice. He came in and fulfilled that and had the 4 points of blood on him, you see. So go ahead and read about Abraham right quick.
And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep.
So why
fell
is the
upon
sun going down? Because, see, the sun was going down here. Just him coming in and having that death, the sun is going down. Same thing would happen with Adam. It was the cool of the night. The sun was going down. There was a death taking place. There was a downward operation, you see, happening. So right here, with the promise, there's a downward operation that has to take place. He's coming out of a high state, and his seed is going to end up in a very low state. And in order for them to get out of this low state, they're going to have to be a blood of the sacrifice. Okay, read please.
And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him.
So he has a horror of great darkness up in this most holy place. Okay, read.
And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs.
So know for sure that your kids and your generations are going to be a stranger in a strange land. You see, it's not theirs. But they're going to go down. They're going to be strangers in a strange land. You see, read.
And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
They're going to serve them and afflict them for 400 years. But.
And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge.
But Yahweh's going to judge the nation that afflicts them. Read.
And afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
But afterwards, they're going to inherit Canaan's land. They're going to come out with great substance. You see? You see? Okay. So what happens? They go down in here. They're down into Egypt. And they have to serve that Pharaoh with great rigor. And what was Pharaoh's? Who was he? What was he all about? You see? He was actually the opposite of Yahshua the Messiah. You see? A creature created who thought that he was the cream of the crop. You know, he wanted to be like the Most High. And that's a mentality that's carried on today with this name of Jesus, is that, oh, what would Jesus do? You know, you have to be like him. And see, that was the deception that took place back here with Adam and Eve, is that they were instructed, they were given a law not to eat of that tree of knowledge of good and evil. But they did not know that in this most holy place, you see again, it's right up here in the most holy place, they didn't know that they already knew good, and they didn't know what evil was. But had they known what evil was, they probably would have not ate of the tree, because who wants anything to do with evil when you have good? You see, but that serpent, the same one that was down here in Egypt, appealed to her vanity and said, you're going to be like Elohim. You'll be like him. The same thing. I will be like the Most High. Trying to be like the Most High. He appealed to her by, I will be like the Most High. You're going to be like him. Well, the thing about it, she didn't understand that she was already in him and a part of him and didn't need to know all that. You see, so she saw that it was, good for, you know, threefold death that happened right there. Good tree to be desired, one to make one wise, and just, you know, and so she took and she ate it and gave to her husband, and there the fall happened, you see. But Yahweh, through his mercy and grace, never leaves us without a way out through these. So it talks about there in Genesis that actually Romans, how that death reigned after that happened. But it was going to be through childbearing, you see, he was going to have to work by the sweat of his brow, and she would have to go through the childbearing, and that the serpent would be cursed to the ground, and on his belly he shall go the whole time. And see, I wish Brandon could do more stuff around that tabernacle, because you have a belly down here and you have a belly in here, and so it's just going about to be on the belly or doing those things that are carnal for the rest of your days, you see, never being able to get back up into the most holy place. He's gonna always be on his belly, doing everything carnally minded, you see. But it's through Yahshua the Messiah, you see, just like with Noah. They had a way out, you see. Look, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. Build an ark, get in the ark. The ark had one window, one door, a three-story structure, showing Yahshua the Messiah, you see. Get in. We told you, blood's on your head. It rained. Then, you see, every time he has a way out, a way out, a way out, a way out, you see, through his mercy. So, what was that? We'll go ahead and read. Oh, the promise. So we're talking about the promise. So they were in bondage, but it was by the blood, okay, of the Lamb. In Exodus 12:1, you see. It was by the blood of the Lamb that they were able to escape the death angel that was placed on them. There was plagues put on the children of Israel and on the Egyptians. The first 3 were on all of them. But then the last 7 were just on the Egyptians, you see. And that in order for them to escape the death angel, they had to put the blood on the inside of their doors. Dip from a basin to side posts, upper door posts on the inside of their house, pointing to Yahshua the Messiah, who's the true Lamb of Yahweh, you see. Then they had to, as they were escaping those 10 devastating plagues, which correlated to those gods that were trying to be like the Most High, and how the people were worshiping those gods that weren't Yahweh Elohim, you see. They were worshiping something else, so Yahweh had to come in and show who he was. He devastated that land, you see, and put those gods down to death, you see, to show him. And he said, he raised Pharaoh up to show the power and declare the name of Yahweh. So they come up out of the divided waters of the Red Sea. They get there. Let's just pick up Exodus 12 and 1 real quick.
Exodus 12 and 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year.
See, this is beautiful because this begins his 7 feast days, you see, and it just burns me how the holidays are totally the opposite of Yahweh's feast days, you see, and it's showing how that he is liberating the people out of death, hell, and the grave, you see. You see. So April, April Fools, who think that's not the beginning of the year. To Yahweh, that's the beginning of the year because it shows forth a resurrection, a life, a springing forth, you see. So they come out of the, go ahead and read.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb.
So every man has to take a lamb. Every man has to take a lamb. You see, we said, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, workmen that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. There's a way to rightly divide it. And I say that because it's just so many people, the Bible's been changed and this, that, and the other. You see, but I'm trying to tell you, you're made in the image of your Creator, you see. And I just skipped over that and now I'm going somewhere else. But you see, we talked about those 4 points of blood. You have 4 points of blood in your intestines when your food goes down, you see, and it burns it up. You see, you got your water that cleanses your blood. You have your adrenal glands correlating to the holy anointing oil that give you quickening, you see. You have that diaphragm that goes in and out like the door, you see, like in a veil. You see, you have a veil. And you have your aorta, your 7-branch aorta that is like the light or life of your body, you see. You have the bread that had the 2 stacks of 6 correlating to the 12 pints of blood in your body. And then the incense that was a sweet smelling savor unto Yahweh that gave him that intercession between the stench and Yahweh. You see, you have your lungs. That is a sweet smelling savor unto you if you ever can't breathe. And you can really start to appreciate how your lungs are sweet. The air is a sweet smelling savor. If you smelling something with sulfur really funky and you need some fresh air, you know what I'm saying? It's a sweet smelling savor. And there is 4 ingredients that made up there, just like the 4 ingredients in the oxygen, you see. And how that you have that other veil, that's your neck, thorax, correlating to this veil. And then you have Michael and Gabriel, the angels that looked at Yahweh when that Shekinah flash, and the law, you see. How you have your motor and sensory in your mouth. Your eyes see as one, you see, just like they saw as one. So your body is a witness to that. You're just kicking against the pricks, trying to deny your own body, walking around. Yahweh, made just in his image, not understanding his purpose and how he's made. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? It says that in scriptures. But so they come up out of here. They have to put the blood on the door, just like there's blood on your door. There's blood on the door. He came in, there's 4 points of blood that put the lamb on the door. They go through the divided waters of the Red Sea. You see, we see that the kidneys are put together here in this depiction with the bladder down here and the adrenals up here. They're put together because it looks like a bladder. I mean, in a circle, but bladder means to blow. Why is it that meaning to blow? Because there was the east wind that came and blew the Red Sea open. Even though these kidneys are on either side, you see, they cleanse the blood. They went on through on dry ground. You see, this is testifying in your body. That's why they're on either side. You can't deny it. They were led by the cloud, you see. See that cloud? Yahshua was that cloud. What do we say? This is the cloud. This is the cloud. This is the cloud, you see. You were born with a cloud, cloud. But Yahshua is the cloud leading them through, you see. So they came on up and they were never in darkness. You see this little white and black thing right here? It was darkness to the Egyptians and light to the Israelites, okay? Just like in this tabernacle, there was never any darkness, you see. Either the sun, the way this is built, you can't see it, but if it was kind of like this, the sun was coming up over the horizon, it'd be shining right on in, you see. And as soon as it got overhead, the sun shining down, the high priest had to light this candle. There could never be any darkness in this holy place, you see. Just like in your body, the light of your body is the blood. And if your blood, something happens, they take your lights out, you know, lights out, you see. So here, in this foundational story of this migration that Yahweh takes us through, they were never in darkness, you see. They fed them bread. They didn't have anything, you know, to worry about that. And then Yahshua was that intercessor, just like you have the intercessor here, you see. And they then later on went up into Canaan's land, you see. But yet it was Yahshua that had to take them up there, you see. So anyway, I feel like I'm out of time because I'm going to conclude right there. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Dr. Pettigrew. Our next speaker for this evening will be Dr. Susan Craig.
Andy's supposed to be the speaker, not me. Wrong name, right last name. Okay, good evening. I have appreciated what the speakers have gone through in the last few days. I would like you to go to the Elohim book. I'm going to try and... Lots of things going through her mind while she was on the floor. Go to the digestive system, page 50. Go down to that first paragraph, not the one that starts the page, the first paragraph. Did you find it? Oh, okay. The first paragraph is not the first paragraph, okay? The first paragraph's the second paragraph on the page, okay? That's where the indentation is.
Now that we have...
No, I don't want that. I want you to go down in that paragraph. There's a sentence that begins with, it is.
It is the fruit of Abraham's loins?
Maybe go up another sentence. Operates before he could explain and compare the with the digestive system with the pattern. Okay, so go back to the first part of right at the beginning. Keep your finger there. Go to the first page of digestion, and start with the first paragraph, just for
The digestive system and the pattern.
mm-hmm.
The digestive system of our physical bodies is a carbon copy of the epochal journey of the children of Israel.
Now watch how this is very interesting. I don't know if it skipped over everybody's heads or anything the other day, but we were talking about the purpose of Yahweh for a couple of months here, right? And so go ahead.
Bodies is a carbon copy of the epochal journey of the children of Israel from Egypt.
Should you look that word up, epochal?
Epochal.
Yeah, but go ahead and keep reading there.
Children of Israel from Egypt to Canaan land.
The children of Israel from Egypt to Canaan land. Mm-hmm.
It concisely explains the purpose
It
of
concisely
Yahweh
explains the purpose of Yahweh.
from beginning to end.
From beginning to end. That was just like, wow, that's so simple. You could take the digestive system and the children of Israel and it precisely explains, right? The purpose of Yahweh.
One moment. I have to remember my alphabet.
E P O C H.
Epochal.
E P
Of
O
or
C H A
relating
L.
to an epoch.
Well, then you better get epoch.
Okay,
EPOCH.
I'm on it. Epoch. A period of time that is very important in history.
Okay, so that was a period of time, that epochal journey of the children of Israel was say that again?
A period of time that is very important
That
in
was very
history.
important in
That's
history.
like the quick definition.
Okay, well, that's quick enough. Okay, so go ahead and go back to. Interesting enough, too. Well, just go on.
The process of digestion incorporates the threefold function of 1, the swallowing or the carrying away.
Okay,
of the
there's
food.
3 parts here. It says, go ahead, say it again.
The swallowing or the carrying away of the food.
The
into
swallowing or the
stomach.
carrying of the way of the food to the stomach. Okay,
2, the decomposition or breakdown of the food by the digestive juices.
Okay, so now the decomposition of the food in the stomach, right? And then in the intestines. Keep going.
3, the assimilation of the products.
And
of
then the
digestion
assimilation of those products after that breakdown. So it's 3 parts. Go ahead.
into the living cells and tissues.
Into
within
living
the
cells
body.
in the tissues in the human body. Yeah.
The word digestion literally means to
Bear or carry away. And that's what Yahweh did with the children of Israel. He bore them and carried them out. Right? All right, now go back to page 50. Where you were reading. Because up until page 50, he goes over all of the history of how the children of Israel came out of Egypt, or out of Canaan land, and came down into Egypt. And so I just, it kind of gets more concise right here. Go ahead.
This overall compares with Abraham being called out of Ur of Chaldees
Now he was called out of Ur of Chaldees, read.
as a relatively young man, and his journeying to Canaan land, where he prospered and bore offspring and later died.
And he went and went to Canaan land, okay, although it wasn't given as the promise at that time to Abraham. Go ahead.
It is the fruit of Abraham's loins, his posterity, that we primarily are interested in, as we will compare Abraham's fruit with the fruit of the ground, food that we take into our bodies daily.
Okay, now Abraham's fruit were the children of Israel, okay? And so now this is going to be compared to the fruit of the ground. Go ahead.
As
that we
one
eat.
recalls from the story, there are 3 famines in the land of Canaan.
Now that's the
during-
other thing, is that there were 3 specific famines back there that you read about, where they had to come down and go into Egypt for food, okay? Now that's just like we have 3 specific times during the day. Some of us have more, but 3 generally, or less, right? Some of us have less, that's true. And so, you know, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have 3 times of your famine in your daily life. Go ahead.
3 famines.
Generally speaking, okay?
3 famines in the land of Canaan during Abraham's, Isaac's, and Jacob's lifetime.
Each one of them had a famine during their lifetime. Go ahead,
And
read.
a famine is a period of hunger.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of each famine, someone was sent into Egypt to get food.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, there are 3 periods of hunger each day when a man must send food down into his stomach, Egypt, to satisfy his hunger pains. The food enters the mouth, located in the most holy place of the physical body.
Okay,
and
so now the food enters into the mouth of the most holy place of the pattern. Go ahead.
and corresponding to Canaan land, where the posterity of
And then that
Abraham-
corresponds to Canaan land. Okay? Canaan land. Read.
where the posterity of Abraham were settled, and it is chewed and swallowed, descending by way of the esophagus into the stomach.
And then it is chewed and swallowed. Now that's where digestion begins, is in the most holy place, and it's chewed and swallowed and goes into the stomach. Go ahead.
After the food reaches the stomach,
Mhm.
like unto Egypt or outer court,
All right, now that is likened unto Egypt or the outer court. Now, see, that kind of makes us shift there. You're thinking, oh, most holy place, court roundabout. But it's going to make a shift here because what you want to see is you're talking about the posterity of Abraham. We're talking about the food of the ground that we put into our mouth. So now what happens with that is how that goes according to the pattern. Go ahead.
the food enters the mouth located in the most holy place of the physical body and corresponding to Canaan land where the posterity of Abraham were settled. It is chewed and swallowed, descends by the way of the esophagus into the stomach. After the food reaches the stomach, it is imprisoned or held there in bondage.
All right, just like the children of Israel who came out of Egypt, or out of, well, first of all, that Abraham's posterity had to go down into Egypt, just like the children of Israel down here in Egypt, your food now is in a position of bondage or where it's going to be, go ahead and read.
It's held there in bondage for about 2.5 to 4 hours.
Which is about how long the food is in the stomach, is between 2.5 hours to 4 hours. Children of Israel were in Egypt for 400 years. They were in bondage. Okay, although there is I'm not going to get into it because I don't know how to explain it. But the 2.5 to 4 hours exactly correlates to the children of Israel being in Egypt for 400 years or 230 years? 215 or 430. So it exactly correlates to the amount of time that the food is in the stomach. Go ahead.
And is subject to rather rough treatment, being mashed.
And weren't they
churned,
subject to rough treatment under the taskmasters in Egypt? Go ahead.
being mashed, churned, squeezed, and otherwise given the acid treatment by the digestive juices of the stomach.
Of the stomach. Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, it cannot leave the stomach until the stomach receives a signal from the brain to release it, nor until sufficient blood has pooled in the stomach area to aid in the digestion of the food. These facts perfectly correlate to the Israelites going down.
Very
into
interesting.
Egypt.
We're talking about this, and tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and it's the day that everyone is just worried about how much they're going to eat, or if they're going to eat too much, or they're going to, eat everything in sight, and lots of things on the news about how to avoid getting overstuffed, and if you do, what you need to do when you are, and all this stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
Wait a minute. Furthermore, it cannot leave the stomach until the stomach receives a signal from the brain to release it, nor until sufficient blood has pooled in the stomach area to aid in the digestion of the food.
Right, and Dr. Kinley even talked about the man walking down. I was reading this transcript tonight, and it's strange enough, again, that I'm reading this transcript. It has nothing to do with digestion, but he starts talking about the man walking down the street who all he's thinking about is his belly, and all he's going to do is how much he's going to stuff his belly, and then he's just going to have a big fat gut. Go ahead.
These facts perfectly
But he was correlating that to something else. Go ahead.
These facts perfectly correlate to the Israelites going down into Egypt and being shamefully mistreated by Pharaoh and his taskmasters, and being held in bondage until Yahweh sent Moses to liberate them, and they having to put the blood of the Paschal lamb on their doorposts before they could leave Egypt. Right, and
so they had to put that blood on the 4 points. They had to have 4 points of blood on that door. Now, interesting enough, in that particular part of the Elohim book, it shows the 4 points of blood on the intestines, on the large intestines, which Dr. Kinley talked about in this thing I was reading tonight, the transcript. It was called Wickedness in High Places. But anyway, so it's talk, what it shows in the Elohim book is this. It shows how this forms a door, where this blood that pool on the large intestine forms a door opening with the basin of blood at the bottom, just like this. 4 points of blood. Go ahead.
When the signal comes from the brain to free the food from the stomach, it is pushed along by a peristaltic wave, which is a nervous stimulus which causes wave-like contractions of the musculature of the stomach behind the mass of food, and a wave-like relaxation of the stomach musculature in front of the food. In this fashion, the food reaches the pylorus, which is the narrowed end of the stomach at its junction to the small intestine.
Right.
And here it runs into a barrier, a pyloric valve, which is a constricting band of muscle which closes off this end of the
Okay, so
stomach.
just like this, the children of Israel come to a pyloric valve, the Red Sea, where they're going to have to be pushed through this divided waters of the Red Sea, or they're going to have to follow that cloud. And the cloud is dictating all the spirit. The peristaltic action is actually being controlled by the brain, okay, which is typical or type of the cloud or spirit. Go ahead.
Here it runs into a barrier, the pyloric valve, which is a constricting band of muscle which closes off this end of the stomach. Here the food must halt and wait until the pyloric valve...
And didn't they come to the Red Sea and halt and wait? And Moses said, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh. Okay, go ahead.
It must halt and wait until the pyloric valve receives a nervous stimuli from the brain to open, and then and only then does the food move on through this narrow strait.
And then and only then when they saw the salvation of Yahweh and they followed that cloud through the divided waters of the Red Sea, did they leave? Go ahead.
Likewise, the children of Israel left Pithom and Ramses in Egypt and journeyed for 3 days, being led, or otherwise pushed along, by the cloud, which was a light unto them in front, and dark unto Pharaoh and his host behind. And they came to the barrier of the Red Sea, and had to stop and encamp there until Yahweh gave Moses the word to raise up his rod over the sea and divide it, thus allowing the Israelites to pass through. When the food passes through the pylorus, it immediately finds itself in a twisting, coiling section of the digestion tract known as the small intestines, the first part of which is the duodenum.
Okay, now the duodenum is going to say
means 12.
Means 12. And so there were 12 tribes of Israel going through the divided waters of the Red Sea into the wilderness of Sinai. And now that food has to go through that intestine, the small intestine, twisting and turning, and, you know, seems as though it's going every which way, but it's going by a pattern or by direction. Because out here in the wilderness of Sinai, it says that the children of Israel wandered, but they didn't wander aimlessly. They were following the cloud, and they were going wherever the cloud pointed them or directed them. Go ahead.
In the small intestines, the food is also pushed along by peristaltic waves. That is, there are times when it is stationary, and there are times when it is on the move.
And you know about that even in your own experience with how your food stops and moves. And I mean, you can feel it, and sometimes it'll form a little gas bubble, right? Go ahead.
Likewise, when the 12 tribes of Israel crossed through the Red Sea, they found being led of the cloud. When the cloud stopped, the Israelites would stop and encamp. And when the cloud moved, they would take up their tents and move.
Right.
Numbers 9:17. As the food moves through the small intestines, it comes into contact with a bitter substance known as bile.
Now it comes to a point where it comes to the intestine with a substance called bile. It's bitter, and it comes from the liver. And Brandon pointed this out the other day, how that the liver is the largest organ in the body, and that it's in the shape of a triangle, the liver. And so it points to Mount Sinai. And so the children of Israel, they come to Mount Sinai, which is what we were reading about tonight in our scripture reading. Go ahead.
As the food moves through the small intestines, it comes into contact with a bitter substance known as bile, which flows down from a large triangular-shaped organ called the liver, which has 4 lobes, a large right lobe, a smaller left lobe, and 2 lobes of about equal size called the caudate and the quadrate lobes. The liver is likened unto Mount Sinai. Most mountains are triangular in shape and have a principal slope and 1 or more smaller slopes.
Right.
And the 4 lobes are likened unto the 4 principal men, Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu.
Okay, so Moses, Aaron, and Nadab and Abihu, Nadab and Abihu are likened unto the caudate and the quadrate part of the liver. Go ahead.
Who went up into Mount Sinai and saw Elohim, Exodus 24:9. Moses, being the leader, is represented by the large lobe of the liver. Aaron, who was Moses' brother and also high priest elect, is represented by the smaller left lobe.
Right.
And Nadab and Abihu, the 2 sons of Aaron and low priest elect, are represented by the caudate and quadrate lobes, which are about equal in size.
All right.
When the bile from the liver comes in contact with the food, it exerts a powerful action in further breaking down and decomposing the food, adding to the decomposing action that has already taken place in the stomach and is assisted by the juices from the pancreas. This decomposition process continues until the essential part of the food is separated from the indigestible cellulose or non-nutritive material, which later passes on down the alimentary canal as draught and returns to the ground from which it came. The 10 Commandment law, which came down from Elohim out of Mount Sinai, had the same humiliating effect on the children of Israel in that they were unable to keep the law, and because of their disobedience, Yahweh caused them to wander around in the wilderness for 40 years until they all died in the wilderness except Caleb, Joshua, and Eleazar, and their carcasses returned to the ground from which they came. Since the 10 Commandment law was written on tables of stone and came down to the Israelites.
See, the 10 Commandment law was like that bile. Go ahead. To the children of Israel, it was bitter. Read.
It is no wonder that gallstones form in the bile tract and pass down into
And
the
so then you
small
have
intestine.
gallstones that form in there, like calcium deposits in your gallbladder that can form there, and that would be synonymous to that tables of stone. Okay, go ahead.
The essential substances derived from the food by the process of decomposition do not meet the same fate as the indigestible cellulose, etc., for they, the amino acids, simple sugars, and simple fats, in a watery solution are absorbed across the barrier of the mucosal lining.
Okay, so now this is where the food starts to take a different turn here. Now it's not just something to satisfy the belly, but now it's becoming that which will make the man live, to make the man have health, to make the man, go ahead.
Are absorbed across the barrier of the mucosal lining of the small intestines and enter into the bloodstream, where they are distributed to the various tissues of the body and utilized in forming new tissues and cells,
Right.
and give energy or life
Right,
unto
energy
the
to
body.
the man, right.
Their ultimate destiny is likened unto beginning life all over again. in
Right, and
another
so it's
form.
almost like being born again, that because it's a cycle and it's going, it's a resurrection. Okay, go ahead.
Is likened unto beginning life all over again in another form. For whereas they were once incorporated in the food which entered the mouth, they are now an essential part of the body itself.
And
live
it's
on.
changed. It's changed the way that it looked when it came into your mouth, and now the way that's going to be assimilated through your body. In other words, it's the same thing as you ate a chicken, but now you're not. Your body doesn't. It's not a chicken now. It's what's been broken down. It's the essential things of that chicken that your body's using. Go ahead.
And live on, as it were, in glorification. Likewise, it was the offspring of those children that came out of the
And
loins.
then that's the correlative thing, is that the children of Israel, when they went down into Egypt, and then when they came back up out of the wilderness, because of their disobedience, Yahweh had them out in the wilderness for 40 years. And they did not inherit the promise, but their offspring inherited the promise. So therefore, it's still correlated to that chicken, you know? It's like it's not a chicken anymore, and it's not the first, it's not this first, the old heads, it's the new birth. Okay, go ahead.
Likewise, it was the offspring of those children that came out of the loins of the Israelites that left out of Egypt, along with Joshua, Caleb, and Eleazar, who went on across the barrier of the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, a type of heaven, and began life anew, as it were, when they inhabited the land, planted vineyards, and built the beautiful temple of Solomon, and reigned as kings for a while, being very much unlike the nomadic people who went down into Egypt, for
Right.
they had received the blessing that Yahweh had promised Abraham that he would give them.
Okay, so now that's like a death, that you eat it, it's a burial, and then there's a resurrection into the body. And so the children of Israel, they experience a death, a burial, and a resurrection. So the digestive pattern and the migratory pattern are showing something about the purpose of Yahweh. And the purpose of Yahweh, when you just put it right down like this, you have Yahweh in pure spirit who came out of pure spirit. Now what he does is he breaks himself down, just like that food gets broken down in your body for the life of the body. Now then after that, he manifests himself in a physical body, but he doesn't stay in that physical body. What's going to happen now is that he's going to take off that physical body after he performs and fulfills the mission and the will of Yahweh, and now he's going to be back into this super incorporeal body, and eventually everything. Now see, but on the way there's stuff going on. Yahweh is multiplying, magnifying, and glorifying himself through his sons. So that what happens is, it's like I don't know how to say this. Everything is going to be far marvelously better than it was at the beginning, okay? Everything is going to be more glorified and glorious at the end than it was at the beginning. So now that's the same thing that happens with, you get tired, you need sustenance, and you eat and you are revitalized. And that is exactly the digestive system showing the foundation, because without digestion, nothing else will work. If you don't eat and take care of you don't have a nervous system, you don't have a reproductive system, everything is affected by the digestive system or the foundation. Yahshua is that foundation. So now everything will be drawn back into, in the end, it says that all things, well, that Ephesians 1:9, is it? Uh-huh.
Ephesians 1:9. Having made known unto us the mystery of his will according to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in himself, that in the dispensation of the fullness of times he might gather together
and now
in
that's
one.
his goal, that he might gather together in one, and that's Yahshua. Read.
All things
All things,
in Messiah,
and we're all things. We're things. All things in the Messiah. Read.
both which are in heaven
And the angels are things. Read.
and which are on earth, even in him.
Even in him. And so that's Yahweh's purpose, that all things, but the thing is that the digestive system and everything else shows the pattern at how Yahweh's operating to achieve his purpose, his plan. And so it's got to be broken down. It's got to be brought down so that you understand what he's doing in the end, when it's all said and done. And with that, I say hallelujah.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. Our next speaker for this evening will be our Secretary, Dr. Janice Welch.
I won't stand in the middle. I will always keep the faith.
Good evening, class.
And I certainly enjoyed the words of the previous speakers. Just things that we go through in this class are more than amazing to me. They are marvelous. What Yahweh has shown us and given us, you know, when you teach kids things, it gives them stability so that they're not wavering and or being tricked or duped by every little thing that happens. So since she was on the digestive system, I think we'll go back there. I don't know where you were in the reading. You know. Okay, let's finish. We're on it. Let's just keep going.
As a final point to include in this correlation, let me remind the reader that insomuch as a great number of people only are interested in the physical side of eating, that is the smell, taste of food, and its mastication and swallowing down into the stomach, they do not pay any attention to the other side, which is likened unto an invisible or spiritual operation.
Now see, that'd be me. I like the smell, I like the taste, I like to chew, and I'm satisfied. And pretty much, you know, when they talk about being carnally minded, we don't have, when we're in the flesh, that's all, and carnal means fleshly. So we're only thinking about the flesh or the physical. Who even thinks about what's beyond that? If it hadn't been for this vision and this revelation, there would have been no way that I could have even thought about anything spiritual, because there was not enough knowledge or understanding to even go past the physical into the spiritual. So I hope that he goes into the spiritual part of it in that reading. I haven't read in a long time. Go ahead.
They do not pay any attention to the other side, which can be likened into an invisible or spiritual operation. That is the decomposition and breakdown of the food and its assimilation into the body. Likewise, so it is with reference to our desiring the physical things of this life and our giving no heed whatsoever to the spiritual things of this life.
Right.
Yahshua the Messiah said, "For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?"
You know, isn't that something? Gain the whole world or be rich, or, I mean, even if you lose your health and you're rich. And who was that real smart guy? Steve Jobs or whatever it was? What was Hawkins? I'm pretty sure he was well off, but I mean, he was physically sick, unable to move. He had to be in a wheelchair, although he was extremely intelligent, but he didn't have enough knowledge to be able to heal his own body. But that's a physical manifestation. But when you look at a spiritual manifestation, you would want for your soul to be healed or saved in Yahshua the Messiah. So let's read a little bit more.
Below is a small comparison chart which will give the reader a quick rundown of the essential aspects of this discourse.
Okay, I remember him going, is that where that chart is in the last class? Let's go through that again, because I know he had to rush through it. I might have to too, but let's just go through it. It's number 1.
Comparison chart on process of digestion and the migratory trek of the Israelites,
Okay.
condensed.
Now he's comparing the migratory pattern, which is the trip that the children took from Egypt to Canaan's land, to the physical body. Okay? Read.
Food is placed in the mouth, most holy place of the physical body, during a period of hunger, is chewed and swallowed down into the stomach, outer
Okay.
court.
Now, the food, and you know, I never would have thought about digestion starting in the most holy place, but it's chewed and it's swallowed, and it comes down to here. Okay, read.
1. Israelites were placed in Canaan land,
Now-
most holy place of migratory pattern, by Yahweh, and later during a period of famine journeyed down into Egypt, outer court, to get grain.
Now, the same trek that the children of Israel took. And you know what? You look at it here, you had Yahweh. He was in pure spirit. That's like Canaan's land, or the most holy place. And then he had to be broken down, or he had to break himself down by a pattern. And that restricted him, because here Yahweh is limitless. And remember, all we're talking about in digestion is talking about our Creator. When she said the purpose, it showed how Yahweh came out of pure spirit. He broke himself down, came down, and died the death of an outcast dog. Outside dog. Yeah, we used to keep our dogs outside. But this was a bitter death, just like the children of Israel came down and they were in a bitter bondage. And when your stomach, when that hydrochloric acid hits your food, you need that hydrochloric acid to break that food down. And you look at our Adam, what is the first thing? He comes into the world, and then what does he have to do? He has to die or be put into bondage and lose that spiritual state that he was in. So you see the same principle or the pattern happening over and over. Go ahead.
2. Food is held in the stomach while it is mass churned, broken down, and treated with acid from the lining of the stomach. Israelites were held in bondage to Pharaoh and cruelly mistreated, being whipped, scourged, and pushed around, and otherwise given the acid treatment.
Now they were given the acid treatment, but do you realize that the children of Israel were under the protection of Yahweh also? So when that food goes down into your stomach, it's given the acid treatment with the hydrochloric acid, but mucus forms and something else too, but it keeps the acid from burning up your stomach. And you know, you think about this cloud here that led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So even though the Israelites were destroyed, the children of Israel were saved because they were under the protection of Yahshua the Messiah. Okay, read.
Israelites are liberated from Egypt by Yahweh and pass through the divided waters of the Red Sea into the wilderness of Sinai. Oh, I got one off.
Oh,
I missed number 3. Food is liberated from the stomach by nervous impulses which open the pyloric end of the stomach, and it passes into the small intestines or holy place.
now see, that reminds me of like a sausage or something where, you know, it looks like it's been tied off on both ends. And even for that action to take place, you have to have a signal from your brain. So here you have the most holy place still directing the moves. That's why, you know, these children of Israel at the right time, they were let go or released from this land of Egypt. They didn't just, like Aaron, he ran on out into the wilderness of Sinai and said, hey, Moses, what's happening? And they both went down. How come the rest of the children of Israel didn't do that? It wasn't time for them. Yahweh had a set time. So he opened, or he made a way for them to go, but he kind of squeezed them out too. So they weren't going under their own mental powers. It was Yahweh controlling this whole thing. Why? To show his purpose, that they would come into bondage, or that Yahshua would come down into the bondage of this physical body. But once he died, buried, and resurrected, he returned back unto the Father. So it's a round trip. That food goes down. Like she said, it doesn't, it's not a chicken when it goes down. It's just like a seed when you plant it in the ground. It's not an acorn and then comes up a big old acorn. No, it goes down. There's a death, there's a burial, and a resurrection. And that plant that comes out of that seed doesn't look anything like that seed. Folks, that's a type of the purpose of Yahweh. Yeah, we look all dingy and grungy in these physical bodies, but we're going to be glorified with the Father. We're not going to look like what we look like now. We're not going to be like, we're going to be completely transformed into, like, I love that principle of how Dr. Welsh showed how the high priest took everybody into that most holy place. And the light that we receive for our glorified bodies is going to be the light of the Savior. He's the one that's going to fill us up with light and make us glorified with him, so we won't feel like separated. Go ahead and read a little more.
Food wanders around in the twisting small intestine and receives the bitter bile from the liver and the secretions from the pancreas, which further digests it.
Yep. Now the bitter bile, if anybody has ever had a chance to regurgitate, which is not a pleasant thing to have to do, it tastes horrible. It's bitter. And this law that was given to the children of Israel, it wasn't something that they just enjoyed. No, Yahweh imposed, somebody come up your house and eat up all your food, and they don't even leave a quarter on the table. That's an imposition. So he imposed that law on them, not to just make them suffer, but it was to show that they were sinful and that they needed a Savior. So he didn't do it to just be mean to them or to us. He showed them that, yes, you need a Savior. And so this wasn't easy. And you see how Moses came down out of that mountain with these tables of stone. And she talked about how you get gallstones. Gallstones aren't pleasant. I've heard people say that's worse than having a baby, which I can't even imagine how that could be. But it's a painful thing to have those stones move through your body to try to get out of there. So here he brought down these tables of stone from this Mount Sinai, which the gallbladder sat somewhere around here by the liver somewhere. So gallstones are not pleasant. This law was not pleasant. And the children of Israel, after Moses came out of the mountain, he saw them acting a fool or worshiping a golden calf. So he threw down those tables of stone and broke them. All right, read.
Israelites wander around in the wilderness and come to Mount Sinai, where they receive the law, which humbles them, and they receive manna from heaven during their journeying.
Now that law humbles them. If you ever have gallstones, it will humble you. You'll be on your knees crying like a baby, from what I've heard. But he also gave them manna. He gave them bread. And they did not wander around aimlessly in the wilderness of Sinai. No, when that cloud got up off of this tabernacle and it moved, everybody started packing stuff. Oh, time to go. So they followed this cloud, just like in your physical body. When that message comes from the cloud and tells that pyloric, is that how you say it? Valve to open, and then the back pushes the stuff, and then that goes forward. Just same thing happens in your intestines. You kind of squeezed along. So even the movement in your body is how the food goes is not even up to you. Once I eat the food, and I'm so glad, I can just sit back and relax and go to sleep if I want to, because I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to think, pyloric, I can't even pronounce it. Pie, that reminds me of some pie. Pyloric valve. Open up. Okay, pyloric valve pushed. No, I can just relax. Yahweh takes care of so much stuff. All we have to do really is choose our food, which is not easy. Put it in, get you some water. There's very little that you have to do to sustain your health, and we still mess that up. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So this is wandering, or it's being led, the food is in your body, like the children of Israel were led in the wilderness of Sinai. Might have time for one more.
Food is propelled along by peristalsis, which is a nervous impulse which replaces the musculature in front of the bolus of food in the intestines.
Okay. Well, and that's in the 3rd volume. And Dr. Harris, who is a medical doctor, put those things in the book for us. Because Yahweh gave him the revelation of what was going on. He put it in a book so that we could read it. And I'm thankful for that, the knowledge that he put in that man to have him break it down for us. Because if I had read about the digestive system, I never would have put it together as it showing forth the children of Israel coming out of Canaan's land, being held in bondage in Egypt, and then going back up into Canaan's land. Now, like she said, it wasn't the old heads. The old heads died off here in the wilderness of Sinai. But that's showing you something spiritually. It's your old man that has to die, or this physical body that has to die, but it's the inner man. Like, I love Andy. He said, look at that smile on his face. Where's that skeleton? Look at the smile on his face. He's so glad to get out of the flesh, he don't know what to do. And if we knew what it was all about, we'd probably be smiling too instead of having the frown, we'd have the smile. But Yahweh has made everything so clear and so simple, and I'm so thankful. They're got Thanksgiving Day for food. Well, I'm thankful for the spiritual food that I've received in this teaching, and with that I'll say hallelujah.
Thank you, Dr. Welsh. That brings a close to our class for today. Are there any comments or questions? Class announcements are as follows. Classes are held every Wednesday and Friday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Sundays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. All workshops are held the first 4 Sundays of each month, and they begin at 9 a.m. Our after-class question and answer period is the 3rd Friday of each month. The school is supported by its members. Pledges are due at the beginning of each month. Donations are welcome and greatly appreciated. For either one, please see our treasurer. From the Office of Public Relations, you can view our class on YouTube. You can also contact us at Facebook, WordPress, and Twitter. All donations for our streaming project are greatly appreciated. I got a little update here on the Chicago seminar, which I'll just read this. It's the 2018 Chicago Seminar. It says, if you're attending the event, it'll be at the Best Western Hotel. When you are calling for a room, make sure they spell your name correctly. Have them repeat it back to you. Ask for Yahshua the Rock room rate. falling, and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise Elohim, our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah, our Sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both before all time and now and ever. Let us all say, Hallelujah.
Yahweh cannot stand infidelity, and my Elohim is the only El for me. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, oh. No, I won't turn away. I won't follow the prince of this world. I won't cheat myself of everlasting life. For the love Yah gives to me is my liberty, and my Elohim is the only